Chazde Hashem, wonderful chevra. So Baruch Hashem, we move in now to our next week's avodah, or next month's avodah, and that is really delving into understanding and upgrading our Shalom Bayis. And this is something so important. And as we've mentioned time and time again, an ikar avodah of Bnei Adam is to constantly develop, deepen, amplify, and expand long-term, healthy, deep relationships. As we know, for example, Bereshis in the 2nd chapter, 18th verse, we're told it's not good for Adam to be alone. This is echoed further in Shemos, chapter 18, verse 18. Again, Bnei Adam talking between Moshe and Yisro. Yisro tells Moshe Rabbeinu, it's not good for you to sit alone. And something that is ever so important, and that is Ish echad kelev echad. When the Torah was given, we had to be one people. We had to have good, healthy relationships. As we know, this is found in Shemos, chapter 19, verse 2. And in the Arba Yesodot, when we speak about these different Yesodot, if we miss out relationships, and we miss out the many dimensions of relationships, we're really doing an injustice. We're missing out certain fundamentals of our life. Because we are social beings. We are, in fact, the most social beings on this planet. And we have to remember that. We have to make sure that we give the proper focus and attention and time to our relationships, understanding and prioritizing the more important relationships and the more casual relationships, to understand the differentiation, the distinction. What is more important? What is not less important, but more casual? And for example, if there's a situation in front of me, how am I meant to relate and react to it, depending on the person? Where do they fit in my life? Whether a spouse, extended family, friends, acquaintances, work acquaintances. Relationships, as we know, include self and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Obviously, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So these are incredibly important features and facets of relationship. Now, when speaking about the inyan of Shalom Bayis, there's so much to say here. There's so much to say here. As we know in several places, Chazal tell us man shouldn't be alone. I'll quote right now from Yevamos Samach Aleph Amud Beis 61, where we're told even if a person has had a family and has had a wife and they've fulfilled all their mitzvahs and something happens where they are not married anymore to that particular wife, maybe she died or something happened, a person should still remarry for the sake of relationship. Now this is actually very important. Dayan Lopian would frequently share. In Chumash we're told that you get married to be best friends with your wife. Before the mitzvah of Pruv Vervu is to become one. Husband and wife should be one. There should be friendship. We're told, for example, a little bit later on the daf, Gemara Yevamos 62b, that a life without that partner is a life without goodness. Such a deep nakuda, such a profound nakuda. Something we should be aware of, that, as we know from Rabbi Singer and Dayan Lopian Shlita, that the Ikar Avodah, they would do everything and anything to keep Shalom Bayis alive. We know that each relationship contains male and female. So, for example, the Gemara again, once again in Yevamos 63a, tells us that the husband, the male, brings into the relationship the raw data, the raw materials, the wheat, the flax, and it's the woman who transforms it. The female aspect transforms it. Now, we have to know again, each and every one of us have male-female. Each and every one of us in relationships sometimes act as the male, sometimes acting as the female, giving and receiving. One of the Rosh Hashivas in Sunderland would say that everyone is a Schneider, a tailor. At times we are patching up somebody else's torn clothes. But as well, sometimes we are being patched up. The Gemara speaks very much about the importance of Shalom Bayis, marital harmony. So for example, the Gemara in Sanhedrin 76b tells us that one should love their wife as much as themselves and honor their spouse more than themselves. And we're told, for example, Bav Metzia, Nun Tet Amid Bayis 59b, the reward for honoring one's wife, which is again a joint honoring, is riches. As we know, and as we've said before, when we speak about ashirut, ashir is as well fulfillment. Eizehu ashir samech bechelkoi. Chelek is time, fulfillment. So who's somebody who's wealthy, who's building a relationship, who's fulfilled with what they have, but as well, they have days that are full. Arichos yomim, they have days that are full. We're told as well, for example, husband and wife, that the growth of a husband needs to include their wife. So, for example, Chazal tell us in Bav Metzia 59b that it's imperative that the husband shares with the wife worldly matters. For example, something which is really important, and this is to take into consideration the time Shas was written. Gittin 6b tells us that it's forbidden for a husband to be overbearing to the household, including the wife, obviously. This is something which was, so to speak, unheard of in that time period. And when we are speaking about relationships between husband and wife, Hashem Yisbarach, we're told, counts the tears of a wife. So God forbid a husband should not be aggressive towards a wife and make her cry. Now, the other way as well is so important, that the wife has to respect the husband, as we're told in Gemara Nadarim 66b, that when a wife respects her husband, this is incredibly precious, incredibly special. And as well, that a wife, she is considered the home. She is considered the home, and she should be there in the home, again, in a healthy way. This is in Bereshis Rabbah 65:2. And when there's proper connection between husband and wife in a home, Gemara Sota 17:8 tells us that the Shechina, the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, dwells in this home. Just think about that for a minute. And again, just take a step back to realize that when we're speaking about husband and wife, we're speaking about two diverse energies, male and female energy, and we contain both female and male energy, male and female energy. And what we want is to bring balance, is to bring beauty, bring relationship between these both parts. And as we said, such an important nakuda always to remember that there are governing principles to aid us, to help us, to guide us into having a good, strong home, an inviting home, a warm home. As we say, Shativne Bayis Neman B'Yisrael. So Be'ezras Hashem, as we discussed in Shir Melav Malka, our avodah at this point in time for the next amount of time is hopefully to share guiding wisdom teachings to help us impress upon us the importance and upgrade our behaviors to bring even greater Shalom Bayis to our home. May we experience bracha, mazel, and hatzlacha, kol tov, kol yeshuas.